Sorry, guys, I had to pause for a second to ask my children to be quiet. Okay, so physical dress and appearance is actually very, very important. If you have a sloppy appearance whenever you meet someone or you meet a patient, they're not going to have as much confidence in you. You need to have a positive attitude. You need to show compassion, always smile, and communicate effectively. Now, we're actually going to watch a little video on the forms of communication.
What is communication? Communication is the successful conveying or sharing of ideas and feelings. It is about imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using some other medium. In our generation today, we have a lot of ways on how to communicate with other people. We have technology that we are using in our everyday lives. Every day we talk, we listen, we chat, and we read letters which forms words that may create an impact on each one of us. Now let's talk about the forms of communication. First thing is the most common of all, verbal communication, which includes sounds, words, language and speaking. There are many languages spoken in the world, and there are a lot of ways as well for us to understand each other. You come across people from various ages, cultures and races. Not fluent? No problem. In communication, self-confidence plays a vital role which when clubbed with fluent communication skills can lead to success. The second form of communication is the non-verbal communication. It involves physical ways of communication like tone of the voice, touch, smell, and body motion. Body language is a non-verbal way of communication. Body posture and physical contact convey a lot of information. Physical contact like shaking hands, pushing, patting and touching expresses the feeling of intimacy. Facial expressions, gestures and eye contact are all different ways of communication. Reading facial expressions can help you know a person better. The third form of communication is the written communication. Written communication is the writing or composing of words which you want to communicate. Good written communication is essential for business purposes. It is also practiced in many different languages. Emails, reports, articles, and mobile SMS are some of the examples of informal written communication. In addition, the fourth form of communication is the visual communication. It is a visual presentation of information like photography, signs, typography, symbols and designs. Television and video clips are the electronic form of visual communication. Visual communication is somehow similar to nonverbal communication, but visual communication involves more onto sight. What are the effective ways for communication? Be direct to the point with your message. Don't use complicated sentences and words. Be free to express yourself. Don't be afraid to express what you feel, but still using nice intonation and respectful words. Use visuals to add further meaning to your message. Be focused when delivering your ideas. Don't get distracted when conveying your message. Be not a speaker alone but also a listener. Remember, communication is a two-way process and that both parties must be able to convey and receive the message. Now imagine our world without communication. Do you think everything will still be the same? Live your life while you can. Be one of the healthiest person you know. Express your thoughts, inspire others, have confidence, and let the world know what you have in mind.
Okay, so that was a little bit on the different kinds of communication. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just go into it a little bit in more detail. Diversity in communication. Types of diversity. There's nationality, there's race, there's culture, there's ethnicity, and social factors. Individual diversity factors can be language, age, religion, economic status, gender, and appearance. Nonverbal communication can be body language, gestures, mannerisms, appearance, self-esteem and confidence, and facial expressions. I know you all can think of some facial expressions: rolling your eyes, smacking your lips, arms crossed, Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about these individual things, but I'm going to give you some definitions. For example, rate refers to the speed at which the speaker talks. You should use a moderate rate to make sure that you're clear and the person can hear you clearly. Clarity refers to the quality of the voice. Volume refers to the loudness of the speaker's voice. Pitch refers to the highness and lowness of the voice. Tone refers to the emotion in the voice. Pauses refers to a period of not talking. Intonation refers to the melodic pattern or the pitch variation. Vocabulary refers to the word choice used. Grammatical structure refers to the sentence structure, and pronunciation refers to how the word is said. Cultural differences and spatial distance. If you're interacting with a person from another culture group that you are unfamiliar with, follow the other person's lead, use gestures casually, and refrain from touching a child's head. Different types of spaces. Intimate or personal space is 0 to 18 inches. Casual personal space is 18 inches to 4 feet. Social business space is 4 to 12 feet. Public space is a distance greater than 12 feet. So we talk about in class sometimes that this is my bubble, that's your bubble. We all have to respect personal space. Communication cycle. The sender creates a message. The receiver decodes the message. The receiver creates a feedback, and the sender decodes the feedback. So that's just a little bit about how you're communicating. I'm talking to you. You're listening to what I'm saying. You're thinking of a response back, and then I'm decoding what you said. Let's talk a little bit about written communication. Type of verbal communication includes written messages, for example, phone messages, letters and emails, online information and media, for example, an informational flyer. The one thing that I want to call your attention to is text messaging or written messages through your phone, which is text messaging. Oh my goodness, I don't know I said that. But anyway, text messaging. One of the things that I have experienced through this process and texting back and forth a lot with everybody to keep in contact is that sometimes when you're reading and you can't hear a person's voice and you can't see their facial expression, it really calls into question how they mean what they're saying. So this is my advice. If you need to say something that's extremely important or very emotion-based, I wouldn't text it. That person that needs to receive that important information should be called personally. Okay, so oral communication. Types of verbal communication styles is there's passive communicators, aggressive communicators, passive-aggressive communicators, manipulative communicators, and assertive communicators. And I'm just kind of looking down to see if I can maybe see where maybe they have given us. Oh, here we go. I have it. So passive is a soft voice, head down, fidgets, no eye contact, victim mentality. Aggressive is low voice, big, sharp, and fast gestures, glare and a frown. Passive aggressive is sugary, sweet voice, often looks sweet and innocent, often in others' personal space and touches others to pretend to be warm and friendly. Manipulative is patronizing voice, uses high pitch, and assertive is medium pitch, speed and volume of voice, good contact, eye contact, open posture, and respectful of others. So I think I'm an assertive communicator. I can be a little more warm and touchy, but I don't think I'm passive aggressive at all, but I think I'm more of an assertive communicator. So you may want to look at that and say, you know, maybe what kind of communicator do I think I am? Therapeutic communication requires active listening. Most important therapeutic communication technique Fully concentrate on what is being said and how it is being said, and show interest verbally and non-verbally. That is a lot of your expression. If you're actively listening, you're not trying to talk when the other person's talking. I am a terrible active listener, and I'm trying so hard to get better because I'm always thinking about what I want to say, and I'm so excited about what I want to say, and I want to get my point across, but I have to work on being an active listener and being quiet while somebody else talks. Open and closed question statements. Open means ask for general information, encourages patient to respond in a manner in which they find comfortable. Closed asks for specific information and limits patient's answer to 1 or 2 words. Therapeutic communication techniques: reflection, restatement or paraphrasing, neutral, silence, clarification, and summarization. So reflection means putting words to the person's emotional reaction, which acknowledges the person's feelings. Also helps to check what the person is feeling instead of just assuming. It shows empathy and helps build rapport. You can say things like, it sounds like you are feeling scared, or I understand you are having trouble with, or you feel that. That's a reflection. Restatement or paraphrasing. Rewording or paraphrasing a statement to check the meaning and interpretation also shows you are listening and understanding the speaker. For example, you might say is, what I am hearing is, or it sounds like you are saying. You need to refrain from using, I know what you mean. So neutral encourages the speaker to continue and conveys you are interested in listening to the message. You can use phrases like, uh-oh, I see, and that is very interesting. Silence allows time to gather thoughts and answer questions. Clarification allows the listener to get additional information. And you can use statements like, can you clarify, or do you mean? And summarizing allows the listener to recap the review what is said. And you can use statements like, if I understand how you feel about this situation. If I understand how you feel about this situation, and then you would continue on with that sort of information. Anger. It's crucial to know how to handle and diffuse an angry patient. It's important to make sure the person feels heard. You need to demonstrate empathy, use active listening, and follow policies for dealing with angry individuals. Communication barriers. They can be environmental distractions, which means noise, lack of privacy and temperature. Internal distractions, hunger, pain, anger, tiredness. Visually impaired, unable to see written communication. Hearing impaired, unable to hear verbal communication. Intellectual disability, unable to understand what is being said, maybe functioning at a lower age level. Illiterate, unable to read or write. Non-English speaking. English is not the patient's primary language, lack of understanding of medical terminology. And emotional distractions, angry, distraught, or anxious. Fear and anxiety related to being judged by the healthcare professionals, inability to explain personal feelings, angry or distraught. Patients may not hear what is said or may not be able to communicate effectively. So those are some of our communication barriers. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about age. So I'm actually looking. I know that I have this in the 14th edition, but I did not open my 13th edition. So you guys bear with me while I grab it, because I love the suggestions for effective communication with aging patients. So unfortunately, I don't always have the same things in both books. So, okay, yes, I do. And so I think this is great. I love this. Okay, so I want you to really pay close attention. In the 14th edition, it's on page 39. On the 13th edition, it's on page 50. 14th edition, page 39. 13th 13th edition is page 50. You need to pay close attention to suggestions for effective communication with aging patients. That is in blue, and it's in blue in both editions. And also you need to pay a close attention to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That is on page 50 in the 13th edition, and it's on page 42 in the 14th edition. So, and I'm going to go into that. I just wanted to give you the page numbers. But again, suggestions for effective communication with aging patients, and also Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay, so age. Understand Erikson's stages of physiosocial development. I'm sorry, guys. I'm still tongue-tied. Trust versus mistrust, autonomy versus shame and doubt, initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, identity versus role confusion, intimacy versus isolation, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read that word. Generality versus stagnation, ego, integrity versus despair. So that is on page 40 in the 14th edition, and I'm going to look for it in the 13th. Give me one moment. I don't think we have a great amount of information on that in our 13th edition. I'm just going to move on. Disease status. Understand Kubler-Ross's stages of grief and dying. So I think we've all suffered a great amount of grief in our lives. Probably most of us. Some of us may not have yet, and that's wonderful. But this is kind of the stages. This is the stages of grief. There's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And sometimes you can be in denial, and you can go to anger, and then you go to bargaining. You can go back to anger, then bargaining and depression, and then go back to anger. But everybody grieves in a different way. So we always need to make sure that we have empathy and compassion, because we really don't understand what people are going through. We may understand that they're hurting, and we may understand hurt, but everybody suffers or grieves at a different way and at a different rate. Personal boundaries with verbal communication. Remember that certain topics are inappropriate in an office or work setting. You must retain a professional relationship with patients. You do not discuss religion, politics, or relationships. Do not gossip with the patient, befriend them on social media, share personal issues, or engage in a flirty or romantic conversation. Okay, discussing relationships. They don't mean saying, how are your children? Oh, mine are great. Oh, you're not going to believe. They're talking about your spousal relationships. Things like, oh, my husband made me so mad last night. Let me just tell you, those are the kind of things that you don't need to be discussing with your patients. That are discussing with the office staff while your patients are sitting there. It's unprofessional. Okay, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I told you guys 13th edition, page 50. 14th edition, page 42. I want you to study and really, really pay close attention to this little triangle. And we may talk about that whenever we have our Zoom call. And I want to just see what you think. What are your opinions of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? And that's just another little picture of that. Defense mechanisms. Unconscious mental process that protect people from anxiety, loss, conflict, or shame. So these are common. So denial is the person completely rejects the information. Okay, mine are just a little bit out of order. I have repression next. The person simply forgets something that is bad or hurtful. Regression, the person reverts to an old, usually immature behavior to express her feelings. Displacement, the person transfers the emotion toward one person to another person or thing. Projection, the person accuses someone else of having the feelings that he or she is having. Suppression, the person is consciously aware of the information or feeling but refuses to admit it. Splitting, the person views another person as all bad or all good and not a mixture of good and bad traits. Reaction formation, the person expresses his feelings as the opposite of what he really feels. And rationalization, the person comes up with various explanations to justify his or her response. So those are the definitions of some defense mechanisms that are very common. Coping mechanisms. Stress, a condition that causes physical and/or emotional tension. There's two types. There's adaptive, which is healthy, and you can do exercising, eating healthy, talking with others. Maladaptive, healthy. I think that should say unhealthy. I don't know. That's not my typo. That's a PowerPoint typo. So that should say unhealthy. Hostility, aggression, denial, and drugs. Patient coaching. Medical assistants must remember to adapt teaching for patient. You adapt to special needs. Write down information for a patient with a hearing impairment and use play techniques with kids. Legal and ethical issues. Okay, we're going to talk about civil rights. All providers who accept federal funds for health care provided must ensure equal access to services. There's Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA. All healthcare providers must provide free, effective communication to patients, companions with disabilities. Americans with Disability Act Amendments Act is the ADDAAA. Expanded definition of disabilities established in the ADA. So let's talk about patient-centered care. Create a relationship with the patient. Make the patient feel respected, involved, and knowledgeable about plan of care. Use therapeutic communication. Build a respectful, comfortable, and accepting relationship with the patient. Give the patient self-confidence. Okay, so that is our slideshow. I'm sorry that I had to go back and forth in the books a little bit, but like I said before, I need a little patience and grace because I'm trying to do two different books and fill in some information that one book may have that the other one doesn't have. But I want you to pay close attention to your summary of learning objectives, and that's at the back of your chapter in the purple. So you guys have a great day. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you soon.